I didn't throw the first punch. But when he shoved me in front of my son, something ancient in me woke up. We were at our son's baseball game, 9-year-old league, local park in Roswell, Georgia. A hot Saturday afternoon, the kind where the sun feels heavy and everything smells like grass and sunscreen. I had taken the day off to be there. My wife, Sarah, had insisted we go as a family. She showed up 20 minutes late in a skin-tight red top and high-waisted jeans that hadn't seen daylight since our honeymoon. Hair curled, sunglasses bigger than her face, and perfume you could smell across the field. I knew something was off when she barely said hi and kept texting. She laughed more at her screen than at anything our son did. Then he arrived. Miles. I didn't know him. Tall, built like he just walked out of a gym sponsorship ad. He wore a white polo like it was armor and sauntered across the field like he belonged there. Sarah lit up like a Christmas tree. Hey, she squealed, too high, too eager. Miles, you made it. My son, Jake, was pitching. I tried to focus on him. Tried. But every laugh from Sarah chipped away at that. She called him M. I watched her flip her hair, touch his arm, lean in like they were on a date instead of a kid's ball game. Then it happened. I turned to grab a water bottle from our cooler when I felt it, a boot tapping the back of my leg, hard, right under my thigh. I turned, and there he was. Miles, arms crossed, smug as hell. You look thirsty, he said. Why don't you grab me a drink? Or I'll take your wife home instead. Right there. In front of Jake. In front of half the bleachers. And Sarah? She laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not shocked. A full grin, hand over mouth, like it was some sitcom joke. I didn't speak. Didn't shout. I just acted. One step back. Pivot. Palm strike under his chin. I didn't go for maximum damage, just enough to make a point. His head snapped back. He stumbled, tripped over the cooler, and went down hard on the grass. Gasps. Silence. Jake's eyes went wide from the pitcher's mound. The ump froze mid-call. Sarah screamed his name, but not mine. Paramedics were called. I stood by the dugout. Silent. Breathing even. Controlled. When they lifted Miles into the ambulance, his jaw hung like wet clay. The EMT said, probable fracture. I said nothing. Sarah stormed over. Mascara smudged, face blotchy, not from worry. From rage. You're insane, she hissed. You humiliated me. I looked her dead in the eye. He touched me. In front of our son. And you laughed. She crossed her arms, nostrils flared. Because you're weak, Ben. Because maybe if you weren't hiding behind war stories and broken routines, I wouldn't need a real man. That was it. The moment it all clicked. It wasn't flirting. It wasn't an emotional mistake. This had been going on. For a while. And she wasn't even hiding it anymore. She brought into our son's game. She watched him threaten me. And she laughed. Sarah leaned in, whispering so only I could hear, You think this was a loss? I still have Jake. And I still have the house. So go ahead, be the soldier. I'll be the queen. She turned and walked back toward the bleachers like she just delivered a mic drop. And maybe she had for her. But she forgot one thing. I don't lose the second battle. I win the third war. And that war started right then, under the Georgia sun, with my son watching, and my wife walking away in heels too high for a mother. I didn't go home that night. I didn't sleep. I sat in my truck by Lake Sinclair, silence wrapping around me like armor. And I made a vow. She wanted war? She just declared it on the wrong damn general. I came home at sunrise. Not because I missed her. Not because I was ready to talk. I came back because I needed to see it with my own eyes. Needed confirmation that what happened on that field wasn't an outburst. It was the tip of something far more deliberate. The street was quiet. Our two-story colonial sat still behind trimmed hedges and a flag that hadn't moved since Memorial Day. But everything about it felt off. I walked in through the garage, slowly, the way you do when your own house no longer feels like yours. The air inside was stale, too still. A wine glass sat on the kitchen counter, red drops dried at the rim. Her heels were near the stairs, one on its side. There was a hoodie thrown over the back of a dining chair, a man's, brand I couldn't afford without a bonus check. Not Miles's style either. Too subtle. Too expensive. So there was another one. I stepped past the kitchen. The dog, Duke, didn't even lift his head from his bed. That told me everything. Something happened last night. Something loud. Something routine. Then I heard laughter. Not the TV. Not a podcast. Upstairs. I moved slow. Deliberate. My boots thudded on each step like war drums. Sarah's door was half open. Sunlight was already slicing through the blinds. Inside, there were two bodies under my sheets. His shirt was off, her legs tangled with his, her voice light and sleepy. She was giggling, like a teenager, like nothing was wrong. And when she saw me, nothing. No gasp, no panic, just a sigh. You're early. That's all she said. The guy scrambled to grab the sheet, covering himself like a frat boy caught by campus security. I looked at him, hair gelled, face smooth, barely old enough to rent a car without a surcharge. Some finance clone. The kind that says leverage 5 times before lunch. I didn't move. I didn't speak for a moment. I took it all in. Then I said, "You brought someone else into our bed." Sarah stretched like she'd just woken from a nap. "Technically," she said, "it's my bed now. You left." I stepped back into the hallway. Not in defeat. In calculation. "You think one punch makes you some kind of hero?" she said, pulling a robe over herself, voice sharp but bored. She nodded toward the guy, who still hadn't said a word, actually listens. "He worships me. You? You vanished years ago. Were stories in gear catalogs, a man who never grew up." I let her talk. People like her always bury themselves in their own words. "You treat me like background noise," she said, walking past me into the hallway. "Because that's what you became." I found real attention. Real men. I followed her with my eyes, not my feet. "You done?" I asked. She stopped at the top of the stairs, turned slightly. "Let me guess. This is the part where you give some monologue about betrayal and broken trust." "No," I said flatly. "This is the part where I stop wasting breath on you." And with that, I walked out. Down the stairs. Out the front door. Still had my boots on. Didn't bother to close the door behind me. I got in the truck, stared at the house for a full minute. This wasn't heartbreak. This wasn't pain. This was clarity. She thought this was a chessboard. She thought she'd taken my queen, maybe even my castle. She didn't realize I wasn't playing chess. I was already building artillery. I parked outside my sister's house that evening, 30 minutes outside the city. Claire lived in a cul-de-sac with her husband and their 2 boys. When she opened the door, she didn't ask anything. She just said, "You can take the guest room. You want me to get Jake from school?" I nodded. "He can't stay there. Not now." Jake came in hours later with his backpack slung too low and questions in his eyes he was too afraid to ask. Claire told him it was a fun weekend sleepover. I told him we were just hanging out, me and him, like we used to. Later that night, he asked, "Why was Mom yelling yesterday? Was it because of that guy?" I didn't lie, but I didn't say too much either. "Sometimes grown-ups mess things up," I said. "But you didn't do anything wrong, buddy. I promise." He nodded. But he knew. Kids always know. I tucked him in, sat beside his bed for a while, just listening to him breathe. It sounded normal. Calm. Not like that house. Not like what Sarah had turned it into. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about just divorce. It was about extraction. Recovery. Justice. I had 2 priorities now, Jake, and ending her campaign like the operation it had become. Tomorrow, I'd call the lawyer. But tonight, I sat with my son in silence. And in that silence, I prepared. Because she thought she broke me. But I was just starting to sharpen my aim. I didn't sleep. Didn't need to. By the time the sun cracked through the blinds at Claire's place, I'd already drafted a list. Names. Steps. Weak points. I'd seen enough battlefields to know the key to victory wasn't firepower, it was information. And Sarah had left a trail. I started with the most important call. Matt Garrison, family attorney and longtime friend of my unit's captain. Retired Marine. Now a bulldog in a tailored suit. He picked up after 2 rings, voice groggy but alert. "Matt, it's been Hollister. I need a full-file divorce. With custody. Fast." There was a beat of silence. Then, talk. I told him everything. The affair. The humiliation. The threats. The new guy in my bed. I gave him names, locations, even the laugh Sarah let out when Miles told me to grab him a drink. Matt didn't ask twice. "You got proof?" "Not yet. But I will." "Then don't say a word to her. Let me build the net. You just fish." "Done." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. I knew who I needed next. Noah Briggs. Old buddy from deployment. Private surveillance now. He specialized in recovering corporate data, cheating spouses, digital footprints. No paperwork, no questions. Just results. He didn't even say hello when he answered. Just, "Who's the target?" "My wife." There was a pause. Then, "You finally ready?" "Yeah." I gave him everything. Her number, email, work address, gym, yoga studio. Told him I didn't want gossip. I wanted timestamps. Locations. Faces. I wanted names I could bring into a courtroom and line up like mugshots. You want clean? He asked. I want undeniable. Give me 48 hours. I closed my notebook. My hands were steady. Too steady. That only ever happened before missions. The calm before destruction. The next 2 days passed in fragments. I stayed with Jake, kept his schedule the same. School. Cartoons. Pizza Fridays. I didn't tell him anything, not directly. But I hugged him longer. Listened harder. And every night, when he asked why we weren't at home, I just said, "This place is safer right now." He nodded. No more questions. I watched him sleep and reminded myself, this is what you're fighting for. Not revenge. Not pride. Jake. At 6:02 a.m. on Sunday morning, Noah sent the first data dump. A folder in my inbox. Labeled, Sarah_operations_001. I opened it on Claire's laptop. Inside, photos, maps, screenshots, social media data, text logs, calendar exports. My hands didn't shake. My stomach didn't drop. I'd trained myself to see ugly truths without blinking. She was cheating, not just with Miles. There were 4 men. 4. Miles, the wannabe alpha from the baseball field. Jared, her business coach, who apparently offered more than branding advice. Eli, a married yoga instructor. And Cole, the finance pup I'd found in our bed. Different days. Different hotels. Even the back seat of her SUV, parked in the lot behind her office. She used cash, but not always. There were Uber receipts. A breakfast charge at a Hilton 2 blocks from Jake's school. And the worst of it? She brought Jake with her once. Photo evidence. A grainy shot of my son sitting alone in a hotel lobby cafe with an iPad and a juice box. Time-stamped at 11:17 a.m., while Sarah was in a work seminar upstairs. Noah's note below the photo was blunt. Kid never left the lobby. But still, this is the kind of thing that wins custody cases before opening arguments. I stared at that image until the laptop screen dimmed from inactivity. Then I called Matt. We filed for emergency custody that same day. No warnings. No letters. Just full legal papers, delivered by courier straight to Sarah's job. Sealed, stapled, time-stamped. She signed the receipt without reading it. I know because Noah recorded it. Matt said the judge would respond within 48 hours. Maybe sooner. But I wasn't done. I drove back to the house that afternoon. I still had legal access. It was half mine until the divorce processed. Everything felt colder inside. The furniture was rearranged. My boots were gone from the hallway. My framed photo from Iraq had been replaced with a pastel print of palm trees. She was already deleting me. I walked upstairs, opened the bedroom closet. My stuff, folded, stuffed, hidden behind luggage. But I wasn't looking for clothes. I took out a black flash drive, loaded with every piece of proof from Noah. Set it gently on her dresser. Beside it, an envelope. Legal notice. Custody motion. Divorce papers. All signed. And on the back of the envelope, I wrote one line. Hope he enjoys smoothies. You'll be sipping your life through a straw next. Then I left. Quiet. Like smoke before the fire. I waited on the front steps. Not pacing, not hiding. Just sitting like a man who'd already made peace with the damage and was now here to deliver the report. Sarah's car rolled into the driveway just past 6. She stepped out like she was returning from some triumphant campaign. Sunglasses on, shopping bag in one hand, her phone in the other, voice sharp with fake laughter. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. She brushed right past me without acknowledgement, tossed her bag on the kitchen island like she owned the place and said, "What is this, a sad stakeout? You bored now?" I pointed toward the staircase. "Check the dresser." She paused, eyebrows tightening, then turned and headed up. I sat still. She didn't scream. Not right away. It came 20 seconds later. Fast, sharp steps descending like a stampede. She burst back into the kitchen, waving the envelope like it had personally insulted her. "You think this scares me?" she snapped. "You really think some legal letter and a flash drive make you the hero?" I looked her in the eyes. Not here to be the hero. Just done being the fool. She scoffed. "You broke Trent's jaw. He's pressing charges. I have half the ball field ready to testify. And I've got photos of you leaving Jake in a hotel lobby while you spent 2 hours upstairs with a coach. GPS logs. Hotel records. Screen captures. You really want this to get louder?" She flinched for half a second. Then came the venom. "You always thought you were smarter than me. Like all your little military discipline and hard stares meant you were dangerous. I'm not dangerous, I said quietly. I'm organized. Her silence was louder than her tantrums. I've got you on surveillance. Audio. Witness statements. Receipts you never deleted. You made a mess in public, Sarah. I'm just cleaning it up. She shook her head. You're pathetic. You think lawyering up and spying on me gives you power. No, but it gives Jake peace. That's more than you ever gave him. She stared at me, jaw tight, breathing heavy. You're trying to ruin me. I don't have to. You've done that part yourself. I walked out of the house after that. Let her sit in that silence, stewing in all the things she used to control but couldn't anymore. Matt called the next morning. Friday morning. Temporary custody hearing. We're going for full custody with supervised visitation. You think the judge will go for it? She doesn't just have lovers. She has negligence. This won't be a hard sell. Noah sent one last file. Finances. She'd been bleeding our shared account dry. The one we opened when Jake was born, our future fund. Last year, it held over 70 grand. This month, a little more than 1,000. The withdrawals weren't subtle. Hotels, spa packages, women's leadership retreats that happened to be near Jared's gym, payments to someone labeled Pathwork Consultant. A search told me it was just a new age excuse to justify sleeping with your life coach. I printed everything, sealed it in a folder, and then transferred the remaining cash into a holding account Matt set up. Legally clean, ironclad. Let her chase it in court if she wants. That night, the cracks fully broke open. Sarah showed up at Claire's house, drunk. Her makeup smeared, one sandal missing, hair frizzed out from the wind. She had a half-empty bottle of wine in her hand and started slamming her fist on the door like she was owed something. Ben, get out here. You coward. I opened the door partway. Claire stood just behind me, already texting her neighbor who worked security for the community patrol. Not a full police unit, just fast response local support. It would be enough. Sarah stumbled on the porch, slurring her words. You think this is done? You think you get to print out emails and wear your little courtroom suit and take my life? I didn't answer. You never satisfied me, she hissed. You were just boring, predictable. Trent, Jared, they made me feel alive. And Jake? I asked. That shut her up for half a beat. Don't pull that, she said, trying to steady herself. I'm a great mom. You left him in a hotel lobby so you could feel sexy in a stranger's sheets. Her face twisted. She threw the wine bottle. It missed, shattered on the porch railing. That's when the patrol car rolled up, blue lights cutting through the quiet street. The officer stepped out, already aware of the situation from Claire's neighbor. Sarah looked at him, then at me, and her voice dropped to a whisper. I'll burn it all down before I let you in. I stepped forward, calm as stone. You already did. I'm just walking away from the fire. The officer didn't need to be told. He guided her down the steps gently. No cuffs. Just enough pressure to keep her from swinging again. She didn't scream, didn't fight. She just stared at me, blinking too much, as if waiting for me to flinch or react. But I didn't. Because revenge doesn't come with yelling. It comes in silence, with every step she can't take back. And that silence? It hit harder than any punch I'd ever thrown. Friday came fast. I showed up in a charcoal suit. Clean shave. Polished boots. No flash, no noise, just a man walking into a courthouse to reclaim what mattered. Claire sat with Jake in the lobby downstairs. He didn't need to see this. Not yet. Upstairs, the air buzzed with quiet tension. Long hallway. Beige walls. Bad lighting. The kind of place where reputations go to die. Sarah arrived 5 minutes late. Cream pantsuit, gold jewelry, and that smug half-smile she wore like a mask. Her mother walked beside her, tight curls, stiff jaw, face full of judgment. 2 generations of delusion in heels. She didn't look at me. That was her mistake. The courtroom was small. No jury. Just the judge, Honorable Deborah Kinsey, known for having zero tolerance for drama. She wore reading glasses low on her nose and didn't smile at anyone. Matt leaned toward me before things started. Follow my lead. Let the facts do the cutting. Always do, I replied. The session opened with Matt presenting our case. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't dramatize. Just walked the court through a clean, surgical rundown. Photos of Sarah's hotel stays. Text logs of her arranging meetups during school hours. Footage of her entering hotels with different men, then exiting hours later. The image of Jake in the hotel lobby with a juice box. When that photo went on the screen, the room went still. Sarah's smile cracked. Judge Kinsey didn't say anything, but she leaned forward. That was the moment I knew. We had her. Matt's final line was quiet, but brutal. This isn't a custody disagreement, Your Honor. It's a case of endangerment, neglect, and willful emotional abandonment. The child deserves better. Sarah's lawyer, a junior partner type in a Navy suit, stood next. He cleared his throat like he was rehearsing, then tried to spin it. She was under emotional stress. She felt isolated. The marriage had long since eroded. My client acknowledges some decisions were poor in judgment, but maintains she was still the primary caregiver. Then came Sarah's turn. She stepped up to the stand, hands folded. Her voice was sugar-laced, polite. Ben and I, we grew apart. He was always so withdrawn, so focused on being this stoic provider. I needed someone who saw me. Judge Kinsey cut in. Miss Hollister, did you leave your son alone in a hotel lobby while you were in a room with a man who was not your husband? Sarah blinked. It wasn't like that. It's a yes or no question. She hesitated. Yes, but he had an iPad. And is it true you had relationships with multiple men during the marriage? I needed connection. I didn't plan. Answer the question, Miss Hollister. Yes. Her mother buried her face in her hand. Matt didn't speak. Neither did I. No victory grin. No gloating. The facts were doing the work. After a pause, the judge looked at me. Mr. Hollister, do you have anything to add? I stood slowly. Only that Jake deserves peace. And I'll give everything I've got to make sure he gets it. I sat down. The judge nodded. 30 minutes later, the gavel dropped. Full temporary custody granted to me. Supervised visitation only for Sarah. Psychological review pending. Sarah gasped like someone had cut her brakes. Her chair scraped back as she stood, wide-eyed. This is ridiculous, she shouted. He's manipulating everyone. He's playing soldier. Judge Kinsey didn't even look at her. Court is adjourned. Sarah stormed out of the room. Her mother trailed behind, whispering frantic damage control. Matt turned to me. You just won the first war. I nodded. Now I finish it. Later that night, I sat on Claire's back porch with a glass of water and a blanket around my shoulders. Jake was upstairs, asleep with a new book we picked out on the way home. He didn't know what happened in court. All he cared about was that I'd picked him up from school and said we were getting pizza. But I knew this wasn't peace yet. Sarah wasn't done. She wasn't the type to lose quietly. And I wasn't the type to let my guard down. This was the part after the battle. The moment you reload, skin the tree line, and wait. Because cornered people lash out. And Sarah was in a corner now. The next strike didn't come through a phone call. It came in a thick manila envelope. No postage. Hand-delivered. Left on Claire's front step early one morning, just as the dew was still wet on the grass. Inside, a printed chain of emails between Sarah and someone at the Department of Veterans Affairs. She claimed I was unstable, said I had untreated PTSD, that I'd shown aggression around our child, and that she feared for her safety. She attached a formal affidavit, signed, dated, filed with the intent of flagging my military pension and triggering a federal evaluation. It was her next move, a dirty one. She didn't just want custody back. She wanted to cut me off at the knees, discredit me as a father, as a veteran, as a man. I read the documents once. Then I placed them back in the envelope, folded it in half, and slid it into the folder labeled counteroffensive. Matt picked up on the first ring. She's coming for blood. I said. Let her try, he replied. I've seen this tactic before. It always backfires. But it wasn't the paperwork that hit hardest. It was the ease of it. The way she could sit in a courtroom, eyes full of tears, talking about motherhood, and then turn around and fabricate mental instability just to win, just to punish. That told me everything I still needed to know. Sarah wasn't broken. She was strategic, cold, and reckless. And if she wanted a full-on war, I was more than capable of giving her one. I sent one text to Noah. Track her finances. I want it all. Anything she's hiding. Anything she's funneling. Noah responded the next morning. And what he found made even him pause. Turns out, Sarah had been hiding a second checking account, opened under her maiden name, transferring small amounts from our joint account every 2 weeks over the past year. Like clockwork, she'd been siphoning money behind my back before I even realized the marriage was on fire. That account, $42,600 in it. Spent across luxury hotel stays, a gym wellness retreat in Arizona that cost $6,000, private coaching sessions with Jared, most of them disguised as marketing consulting, jewelry, lingerie, cosmetic surgery payments. And worst of all, 2 payments labeled school application deposit, not for Jake, for Jared's daughter. She paid for another man's child's private school enrollment using our money. I printed every transaction, every statement. Matt reviewed the documents and grinned. This isn't just infidelity. This is fraud, asset misappropriation. And if we time it right, we could flip this entire thing around. Not only will she lose any shot at primary custody, she might end up paying you monthly, even if she didn't want the divorce, especially if she initiated it. I didn't gloat, didn't send her messages, didn't post online. I waited. That's what she never understood. Sarah was loud, dramatic, reactionary. I was deliberate. 3 nights later, the silence cracked. It was close to midnight when headlights flared across Claire's yard. I saw the silhouette through the window, a woman stumbling out of her car, slamming the door. Sarah. She looked wrecked, hair wild, makeup smeared, no shoes, clutching a phone in one hand, a bottle in the other. She walked up the front path like she owned the place and started pounding the door. Ben, open the damn door. Claire met me at the hallway. I'm calling the emergency response line. She's out of control. Do it. I opened the door just enough for her to see me. Her eyes were wide, bloodshot. You think you can take everything from me? She shrieked. No, I said calmly. I think you already gave it away. She pointed the wine bottle at me, shaking. You think you're some perfect dad now? You're a washed-up soldier with a boring life and a clipboard lawyer. You're nothing. Behind me, Jake's bedroom door creaked open. His small voice, Dad? I turned. Back to bed. But, it's okay. Sarah heard him. Her face twisted. This is what you want? A sanitized life? A kid who'll grow up soft because his dad's a cold shell? I stepped out, closing the door behind me. You don't get to speak about him. You forfeited that right. She was crying now. The ugly kind. The kind you can't stage for pity. The patrol vehicle pulled up. Lights spinning low. Quiet protocol. An officer stepped out, calm and collected. Sarah turned, desperate. He's lying. He's poisoning our son against me. The officer didn't even blink. Ma'am, we've had a welfare report filed for this residence. I'm going to ask you to step aside while we talk to Mr. Hollister. She screamed again. I'll ruin you, Ben. You already did, I said. I just built something better from the wreckage. She lunged forward once, then collapsed on the lawn, sobbing. The officer escorted her to the car, gently, without cuffs. I watched in silence, not with satisfaction, just finality. The final blow didn't come with noise. It arrived in my inbox on a quiet Tuesday morning, tucked between a billing statement and a coupon for oil changes. Subject line, Final Divorce Notice, Hollister versus Hollister. I opened it without ceremony. A PDF. Signed by the judge. Filed by the clerk. Stamped. Done. At the bottom of the document was a single line that told me everything I needed to know. The petitioner withdraws all previous complaints and claims against the respondent. Translation. Sarah gave up. No more fake accusations. No more custody threats. No more noise. She folded her cards. She thought I'd cheer. Smile. Feel vindicated. But I didn't feel much at all. I'd already grieved. Already burned through the fury. What was left was precision. Control. And Jake. I sold the house 2 weeks later. I didn't want my son growing up in a place with echoes in the walls. Matt handled the paperwork, and I didn't tell Sarah until the ink was dry. She called me 3 times in a row. On the 4th, I answered. You can't sell that house, she said, voice sharp but brittle. That's still my legal. Read the settlement, I said. You gave it up. You're pathetic, she hissed. You think a check makes you the winner? No, I said, standing on the balcony of our new place with Jake beside me. Being free of you does. Click. But the final scene? That came with a crowd. Jake's school had a fall recital. He'd been practicing for weeks, playing drums in a small percussion group. Claire and I sat in the 3rd row. I hadn't seen Sarah in person since her breakdown on the lawn. She walked in 5 minutes before showtime, wearing a low-cut blazer and sunglasses indoors. Classic. She spotted us. Walked past without acknowledgement. Took a seat alone in the back row. The performance started. Jake was brilliant. Focused. Happy. I was locked in on him until I heard a voice behind me, whispering, low but sharp. She's got some nerve showing up. It was another parent. I turned slightly, caught the tail end of a conversation. I heard she got her custody cut. Court stuff. She used to coach the PDA. Now they won't let her near a sign-up sheet. Whispers ripple fast in small towns. Sarah must have heard them too, because halfway through the show, she stood and tried to slip out quietly. She bumped into a mom near the aisle, spilled her purse. Lipstick, receipts, and a crumpled sheet of court paperwork fell onto the floor. The woman picked it up, frowned at the heading, Psychological Evaluation Compliance Notice. Sarah snatched it from her hand like it burned. Every eye turned. I didn't say a word. Didn't even look back. Because some defeats speak for themselves. That night, Jake and I sat on the balcony of our new apartment. 2 bedrooms, clean carpet, quiet neighbors. He called it the fortress. Glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, shelves we built together, a beat-up futon I didn't mind sleeping on. Daddy, he said, brushing his teeth, do you think Mommy's still mad? I paused, looked out at the street. Calm. Still. No wine bottles. No screaming. I don't know, I said. But it's not our problem anymore. He nodded. Went to bed. This wasn't a happy ending. This was a clean one. Sarah destroyed everything she touched because control was more important to her than love. But I didn't ruin her. She ruined herself. All I did was make sure Jake had something solid to stand on when the storm passed. And now? She can spin all the stories she wants. She can change her name, her address, her hair. But that mask? It fell. And the whole damn room saw who she really was. The mask has fallen. No more cameras needed.